Our land is one of grasses, wind, and the open sky. We measure our lands by the distance of days or weeks and the passing of seasons. Long days pass by, and we sing around our campfires at night, love and laugh together, for what is the use of passing through to the earth without experiencing it to the fullest? I have missed one of the greatest things in life, a thing we do well, and we love as much as our women and children. We love one thing more than this earth and sky. We love war. We love it deeply, and we are good at it. Only in battle are you truly alive. To feel the apprehension before, to delight in wetting the earth in an hour more times than in one day's passing. Then of the swift clash of arms, the tiredness, the splash of bright blood, and the feeling of armor parting under a swift strike. What more is there than the sight of the surprise as you rip your axe free, to bury it deep in another blow, a finishing strike that sees another life leaving quickly dimming eyes. To be alive after, to sing victory, to drink yourself to a stupor, and pass out with the realization that you did not die. You passed the test of arms, and that your body will not rot or burn with the ones that failed the test of war. In the winning, you absorb more. You take the women, and slay the men if they do not give themselves over to you and your own. But this is how we grow strong. We defeat utterly, kill many, and then give servitude to those who accept it, making us stronger as a whole. For amongst the steppe, there are many tribes of Khand, many Variags, and we seek to consolidate, to gather to our banners the greatest force. One day, all will fight under one, the strongest, and then we will have conquered the world. Now, that day, glorious day, will be the last, as what more is there for we Variags? What then? All do not see as I do, but the days pass and more are taken. Soon we will turn to the other lands, beyond our own. I yearn for this day, and it may be before we are full to brimming, when I am the tribal chief. We will march upon this Gondor, this Rohan, and teach even Gorthauer what subservience truly is. To the west, where the Rhûn lies, beyond which lie the one they call Lord, Sauron, Gorthauer. They worship him as a god. Beyond them lie lands rich and fat, grasses of green, verdant and flush with weakness we do not feel ourselves. Settled lands, where we can see walls of stone that dwarf anything we have seen in our times before. In the distant past we have joined with the warbands of Rhûn, and we have fought the ones with the silver armor, bearing the banner of black with a white tree emblazoned. There is our test, for we have not yet beaten them, nor have the Easterlings destroyed them, even with the aid of the Southrons and their dark allies. Even the Blue One's treachery to his masters cannot aid them in this. But there is more than this to us. There is the war between the unfamiliar concepts of this good and evil. We have met with emissaries of both sides of this fickle coin and heard the words they speak. The ones in blue spoke with some jaded wisdom, and they kept their power hidden, cloaked. But we knew, and they were tested. One failed in this testing and was lost. Palanto, his name. The other, Alatar, went to the others, of whom I shall speak. The ones in black came before us, emanating fear such as has never been felt, their power displayed in such vagrant might. Both were listened to. There are those amongst us that profess to their devotion to one side or the other, but the steppe was too vast to be bound by something this organized. We are too free to become bound by an organized goal, and this is why we live as we do, why we love and laugh and war, and why we gather in more and more. For what is the use of simply sitting and planning, of contemplating the very nature of one's existence, of the why and the what if? There is more than that. And we are the steppe. We are the Variags. And we do not bow before anyone. My Gavanan Melonin, and well met indeed. I'm Arakir Galadirthan, and welcome back to Middle-earth as we begin with the rise of Khand and the arrival of the Horde. In the darkness before dawn, the wind blew across the empty plains of the westernmost reaches of Khand, the plains themselves lying far in the east of Middle-earth, empty except for a small camp marked by the banners of the Shadow. And then the sun rose, and as it rose, sounds pierced the silence of the landscape, hooves resounding across the steppe, the clanging of metal against itself, and the blowing of flags in the wind. And then the horde came. Thousands upon thousands of people and horses, each bearing colourful flags, and within the horde could be seen numerous different groups, unified in their choice of arms, colour, and flag. And within its head rode the leader of this vast force, Khan Arkish, lord of the eastern domains and commander of the many houses of Khand. And to meet him rode the emissary of the Shadow, the lieutenant of Barad-dûr himself, the mouth of Sauron, departing from his camp. And so the two met, and Arkish, for all his might, bowed to the emissary, who then thus greeted him. The Dark Lord bids you welcome to Middle-earth, Arkish of Khand. He is pleased that you have been able to gather such a force and travel from your seat far in the east to where we now stand with such speed. With your arrival we grow closer to the glorious day when we shall crush the weak-willed fools of the west. For, even now, he marshals our allies in both Harad and Rune, and together we shall smite the descendants of those who once conquered you, and crush their legacy. However, our lord has bid me to offer you a choice. Near to us lies the camp of Sturlot-Sakand, a local centre of power for the western clans. Your speed was unforeseen, and if you were to attack now, it would be without the might of Harad and Rune. As such, we offer you Sturlot-Sakand and ask for you to consolidate your power among these lands, and prepare for a concerted attack. However, our master does not compel you to remain. If you wish to continue and feel confident in your force, you are welcome to proceed, in which case you will be allowed the use of both the great beasts and the legions of the temple to aid you in your conquest. Make your decision. Do you wish to continue into Middle-earth and conquer the free peoples, or remain here to consolidate your power? So, this needs to be discussed right at the beginning because it is the primary reason why we're playing as Khand. In version 5, whenever that releases to you all, it is not currently public available as at the date of this recording, which was the 9th of January 2022. But when it does release to you, you will have access to the Khandish Horde. By clicking the green tick, which I will now do, Khand will turn into a Horde faction. You will no longer have the city of Sturlot-Sakand, nor any of the realms over here in the east, and your force will turn into a Horde army. If you are unsure what that means, in essence it just means that you now have the freedom to go wherever you want to. Your victory conditions as Khand are simply to hold either 25 or 40 regions, depending on whether you're doing long or short campaign, reverse respectively. Well, I've gone for short because 25 is still no mean feat. But you are not bound to do anything. If you want to now, you could break alliance with Mordor and go and sack them if you wish to. You can go all the way up to Bree if you want and start your campaign there. You are restricted only by the distance and time it might take you to go where you want to go. You start here, in this small little section with Khan Arkish and his son Warlord Orash. You start then with a plethora of cavalry, an absolute veritable bounty of cavalry, and it is up to you to go where you would like to. But this option, as it detailed at the bottom of that scroll that I just read, this option locks you into the Mordor path of the Blue Wizard script. The Blue Wizard script will not run at all if you choose a Horde start. So we get the benefit of playing as a Horde, but we will not get the Blue Wizards. That is the way it goes. So we've taken the option to be a Horde, but we won't have the Blue Wizard script. Just want to repeat that. So the East here will just remain Rebel, and probably Harad and Rune will mop it up. Maybe Mordor will get involved, and it's up to you to go wherever you like with this one starting army. Note that at this beginning turn, you do lose about 400 gold coins a turn. Your King's Purse is significantly bolstered, but it doesn't quite meet your upkeep. So you are a little against the clock in how far you want to go. Of course, you can just cheat move your army, but then you'll arrive in a place where you shouldn't be earlier than the nations there have time to be ready, if that makes sense. But anyway, we are starting as Khand, and we are going to start as a Horde, but I'm not going to tell you where we're going, and instead I shall simply now just cut the video to the point at which we arrive at where our campaign is going to begin. I do hope that you'll enjoy this Khandish overview. I hope you've enjoyed the intros thus far. I don't believe I wrote either of the messages that I have just read out, either in the bespoke intro or that little clip I just read there. I didn't write either of those, so that is courtesy to someone in the modding team recently wrote the message I just read, and the initial intro that I read a moment ago with a picture as a background That was written by someone yonks ago, before I even joined the modding team. I don't even know who wrote that. So if you are to offer their congratulations for the writing, don't do it to me, because I didn't write those. But anyway, I will see you in just a moment then, when the campaign can begin proper. Welcome to Khan's new homeland. Now, because the entire horde is with us, and every single man of Khand is born of the saddle, our entire force is mounted. And as you therefore might imagine, we cannot use siege equipment because Medieval 2 does not let cavalry units dismount. So the horde has arrived at the walls of this castle, which I have chosen as our new homeland. The castle at the moment just has the standard Northman design, which might give you a clue as to where we are. And this is the current rebel garrison. Independent realms, giving it away there by hovering over it. Of course, we are somewhere in Rovanian, but you'll see where when we win this. The rebels rose up after a 5-turn siege because that's all that they could do. And we're plunged straight in with Let's watch Gallo absolutely uselessly command cavalry, because that's what 90% of this campaign is going to be. Because I am inattentive, to say the least. And to be a good cavalry commander, one must be in all places of the battlefield at once. And I am not that. I am not that. So this is going to prove to be a most unusual campaign, in that I am thrust in with a unit type that I really, really, really don't get on well with. So we'll see how it will be. I've also tried to make it as difficult as possible for us by starting us somewhere deliberately difficult for our nation. Or not deliberately difficult. We don't start at war with anyone around us, because as Khand, you only start at war with Gondor, sorry. So anywhere you go in the world, you won't be at war with anyone unless you go to Gondor. But I've started in a place where we have enemies that a normal Khandish campaign might well bump into. But I don't mind that, because they're enemies that do not regularly feature on this channel, and I am therefore very happy to show them off as adversaries for this campaign. Khand, of course, as we watch this battle unfold, are the horse archer faction. Their general's bodyguard, the Variag nobles, are mounted archers, and they look fantastic courtesy of Cowering Coma and his addition to the mod. That just looks, the quality of those units is just, it's unbelievable. It really does help make this game fit into the modern era despite the age of it. Look at the quality on the flags alone. They just look fantastic. So we've got our general's bodyguard as a horse archer. We've got the mainline Barun raiders, who you will all be very familiar with if you've played DaC in the eastern side of the world in any way, because Rhûn, Mordor and Khand all get Barun raiders, so you will likely have seen them at some point at some time. We also get the considerably better Variag horse archers, who I've put over here with the general. They're sort of the next tier up, and they are much better cavalry archers than the Barun raiders are. Now, you will note that at the start I took them all out of skirmish, and I've just put them all back into it. And that's only because skirmish mode is notoriously buggy, and sometimes half the unit will run away and half of it won't. Sometimes, if there's two units approaching from different ways, your unit's AI just absolutely wigs out. Now, you may think, but hang on, Gallo, when I play against horse archer units and they're on skirmish mode, and I try and surround them, or if I play against general infantry units and they're on skirmish mode, and archers, foot archers, they always escape with their lives. Why is the AI so much better at it than your units? And to that, I'm afraid I do not have an answer, but it is a bizarre phenomenon where when you set your units into skirmish mode, sometimes they just don't do it. Look at this, for example. 4 of the units have buggered off over there. The rest of the units stayed there. Skirmish mode is so hit and miss. But anywho, we've got the Variag horse archers as well. And then a unit that you will see much later in the campaign is the Warlords Cataphract archers, although they might have a new name now. But we get 3 mainline cavalry archers and our general's bodyguard. So we get so many cavalry archer options. You will not want for cavalry archers, I can assure you of that. Oh, you ran miles away. Goodness. All right, we killed everyone yet? 93%. Who still stands? We've got sellswords and we've got Rovanian spears. So I don't want to give anything else away about the campaign map. That's the point of me starting on this battle, showing me actually winning and conquering the town that is to become our new capital. I'm going to rename it to Arkishla, purely because I thought that sounded nice, and Arkish is our Khan, and he probably would name something after himself. Now, a general note on the campaign as we progress. I don't think I'm going to do intros for this campaign. I'll see how I feel a little later on, but I'm tempted to leave those as a Reunited Kingdom feature because it's got... those are so much more interesting to me because the Reunited Kingdom features so many canon characters, and I find it very interesting playing a narrative around characters we actually know. Whereas, of course, Khand is a fan fiction nation, really. They're not a fan fiction nation purely. They are mentioned in the book. Warriors of Khand do fight at the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, and they are, therefore, a people who fight for Sauron. But we don't know anything beyond that. We literally just know that they happen to fight for Sauron at the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, and that's all we know about them. So they don't have any named characters. None of their units are... the names aren't taken from the books in any way, the wider writings. And other than the name and the fact that they exist, everything else about them is made up by us, the modders. Of course, I am no longer part of the mod team, but other than the Variag Noble Warrior unit, and of course the general visuals, and a few names here and there, the Khand that I am playing here is largely unaltered from the Khand that I would have worked on when I last worked on the mod. The Horde mode start is new to version 5, of course, and we've taken advantage of that, but then the meat and bones of Khand will all be stuff that I did when I was back in the mod. So every now and then I might slip into saying we the modders, and that I'm just caveating that. I just like to cover off all the bases, so I'm saying that at least once. Right, those of you who can still shoot, run away. Don't fire as you charge in, and let's kill off the general rather ceremoniously with a little charge from our general's bodyguard. Thundering across the plain,
the enemy's general
and down he goes.
Now his men can sense their doom upon them.
That's everyone dead, isn't it? Oh, and then the doors open in true movie style. The heroes of the city step forth. Now, I deliberately chose a castle as our starter because those among you who have played the game a lot will note straight away that this is a castle, not a city. And the reason I chose a castle is because Khand are still one of the Wildmen factions in terms of the files, or in terms of how they were set up in the files. And by that I mean Khand do not get strongholds, the third tier of castles. They just cannot build them. They are a hit-and-run, fast-moving, light skirmishing type nation, not a late-game solid wall of death like the dwarves or the elves or the Númenóreans.
They run like great victories are like sweet nectar.
Huzzah!
Let us drink of the most rare and glorious fruit.
Rare and glorious fruit. Again, the keen-eyed amongst you will now know exactly where we are, because when we go to the stat screen, it tells you the city you're fighting at. But you may not know where on Middle-earth it stands. But all of your mysteries are about to be passed into the ether. The answers will present themselves to you in their stead. For it is now that you find out that we've started in Rovanion, and we have started at the castle of Ilanin. And as you will see, I just beat Dorwinion to it. Dudanis has been standing there for the entirety of the time that I have been here besieging this place. Because I had to besiege it for the full 5 turns, of course. Oh, I toggled war so that I could... I was deliberately avoiding running into things because it delays your turn movement, and it was just such an annoying feature that I just can't stand. But it is turn 16, so we're going to get here about 16 turns in the deficit, if you will. The nations around us have all had that time to grow and advance. You will note from the path that we just walked around Mordor and then walked straight up, and then I did jump him round the corner of Dorwinion here. But other than that, it's just been a straight shot, and then 5 turns of besieging, and here we are at the capital of Ilanin. Now, I have chosen this place because it is against 3 enemies who we don't fight against on the channel really at all. Dale, the Dwarves of Erebor, and Dorwinion. it is very rare that we've fought against these three peoples. In addition, I wanted to try and steer clear of Gondor and Eriador, because those obviously are featured in the Reunited Kingdom. And we seem to have fought against Dol Guldur so much recently that I decided to try and start as far away from them as possible. There was a suggestion in the live stream that we should start in the region of Brown Boat and rename it to Brown Boat, because it's not called Brown Boat anymore. But that puts us way too close to Dol Guldur, and I didn't want that. So Ilanin ticked all of my boxes. So we can now punch south into Dorwinion, north into Dale, or further north into the Dwarves, and I'd like to do all of those things. We will get our victory conditions by fighting those three factions. I'm not all that bothered with Rune, but of course, if we hit Dorwinion, Rune will grow strong because of it. So Dorwinion is unlikely to be a threat. Now, as for Khand, as just a general overview, as I've already mentioned, we don't get strongholds. If you side with the Blue Wizards, so if you stay in Khand and you side with the Blue Wizards, that, I believe, allows you to get strongholds. I think that's the one that gets you strongholds. I can't quite recall. Does our Green Book? No, the Green Book would be in Khand. It wouldn't tell you anything here. So we're a little restricted, but we do get access to the Temple Knights, as it already mentioned, but I don't know if we can build them everywhere. I think they might be restricted, but we can try. My gut instinct is that they are restricted because we can't currently see them. So I think those are restricted to Khand only, which means despite that message telling you can get them, I'm not sure you can. But it might require just an end turn, and then we'll see where we are. Oh, unless it requires something. No, it just says it's not possible. That means it's scripted. That's what these colours and symbols mean, if you are unsure, by the way. The grey ones mean that either something needs to happen or something needs to be built. So here, once you get land clearance, you can get the livestock farming. Red means it's available immediately. So the Inquisition I don't think we'll ever get. But if we ever go back to Khand, we can get Temple Wards, Temple Marksmen and Great Beasts for siding with Mordor. Although, of course, we haven't really sided with Mordor. We just happen to have chosen Mordor. So we're going to want to get our culture up as fast as possible. And also, oh dear, find a way to make our horde not cost us the earth. So we're not technically at war with Dorwinion at the moment, and I hope to keep it that way to mop up some rebel regions. So this whole area is free. And we're going to head over and do that. So I'm going to take both of these and we'll leave Tolui. Are you a family member? Oh, yeah, you came of age. Oh, cool. Welcome to the family.
An honor to serve.
Tempted to just leave him, actually. But then it hates us. Oh, 70%. 70% we can live with. Have a couple of cavalry archers, because we've got so many.
Orders. As you will.
There we are.
Noble one.
Right, and then Arkish.
At once.
Make your way over to Rawberg. We're going to need to utilise the forts. There's just no way around it. We are losing 5,000 gold coins a turn. And Arkishla is not going to be a particularly profitable province. I think this is again where
Yes, noble master.
It's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult, but the modding on the mod now, the modding to DaC is moving relatively slowly, and I don't know if they have plans to amend this in any way or change it up at all, but for example, I would recommend heavily, it would suggest to me that so far, though, all they've got to do for version 5 is set canned horde mode to be on, and that's it. No more thought is going to go into it, if I can just speak plainly. I should stop pussyfooting around, really. DaC is my legacy, and it does disappoint me when certain things don't happen, but I've given up of that legacy voluntarily, so I can't hold it against people when they don't do something that I might have done. That is entirely their prerogative, and it is, if I wanted to do something about it, I'd have to ask to go back and do it, and I don't want to do that. So I can only speak now as a sort of grandparent would a grandchild. You can't really tell your children how to deal with their own children, but you can lament from afar about the way that your grandchildren are being raised. I presume. I have no children of my own anyway. But the reason I mention that is because I don't think Khan's Horde mode then has been particularly tested, because the fact that we're now losing 5,000 gold coins on turn 16 with no means of making any money, depending on where we started, is a huge oversight and will grind this campaign almost to a halt, almost straight away. And there must be something that we could do. I need to stop saying we, because it isn't we. I know I mentioned that at the beginning, but I don't mod it anymore. But there must be some sort of thing that can be done to account for this drastic loss in income. A one-off sum, just as soon as Cand has more than one region, give them 10,000 gold coins or something. Just let me get at least a building built before I am then thrust into absolutely crippling debt. Something like that. There must be something that we could do, surely. Oh dear, that cavalry didn't last long, did it? And then we got some Ravanian spearmen and Ravanian hunters, and they have changed their minds almost immediately as the storm of Candish horse archers rains down upon them. But yes, I think Cand should get a financial gift as soon as they have a single province. And again, that script does not require that it checks what province is owned, merely that Cand has more than one settlement. That's a simple script. And I think that would help massively. I also think that the King's Purse should probably be increased quite drastically for the first sort of 30 turns or so. Maybe, again, the King's Purse can just check each turn until you have more than one region. That's not such an onerous script to just check for the first sort of 15 turns or so. I mean, I've not gone that far away, but it's likely people would go to this sort of area. Or within this kind of, a range of this type is probably better wording. Around sort of 16 to 30 turns I would expect people to take to find somewhere to settle as Cand. And I just think I shouldn't be as punished as I am now being punished purely because I chose and opted for the horde start. It's going to take a long time for us to actually earn money, and obviously I want the campaign to be difficult, because the more difficult the campaigns, the more enjoyable they are, both to play and to watch. So we need that difficulty in here. But
half the enemy force remains.
Having no money and 3 enemies might make it a little too difficult. Don't fire, don't fire, don't fire. I'll try and use the rest of you. We want to maximise the use of our archers here. Go around that way, actually. They're over there. Oh, and all 3 of them are over here. All right, you go that way. I'll bring you down the middle. But you guys, if you come wide around here. We'll try and use the faction leader and faction heir as much as possible in terms of if we actually do have to get into melee. I should have done this from the start as well. That was foolish to just do all the arcing shots. That was a great waste of arrows. I think they're out. Again, can you guys actually get close enough without... I'm just concerned that once they take a certain number of losses, they might actually just think, oh, balls to it, let's just charge them. But this is all we've got. These are all of our arrows now. The spearmen are no, the privateer axemen. I don't know. Spearmen get an anti-cavalry bonus. Privateer axemen get an armor-piercing bonus. Oh, well, that's the spearman dead anyway, so that's problem solved. Alright, if we use our faction leader and our faction heir together, we should be able to do it.
Cut off the serpent's head.
Oh, the enemy general's dead.
Let's see how these snakes fight without their head.
Alright. This is, in many ways, this is almost cheesing it, really, isn't it? But it's not directly cheesing it. Now,
Victory is well within our grasp.
As I say, privateer axemen
will surely see this
are armor piercing. So there is always a risk, particularly with cavalry, that you do get an unlucky death.
Come, let us drink of the most rare and glorious fruit.
129 Baron Raiders. Now, of course, I report back on my thoughts that I've had just in this episode alone on the start for Cand's Horde mode, and we'll take it from there, really. I do agree, though, on reflection, I agree with the idea that if you choose the Horde mode, the Blue Wizard script is just turned off. Because let's say you chose Horde mode and you went all the way to, I don't know, to the Shire, and you started your campaign in Mitchell Delving. For the Blue Wizards to then contact you with all those messages about coming from the east or this, that, or the other, it would be really bizarre, and it just wouldn't work. It would be totally out of the blue. So I do agree that Horde mode should just turn off the Blue Wizards and just assume you've sided with Mordor and leave it at that. I think that works best. But the fact that it tells you that you can get the Inquisitors and then we probably actually won't be able to get them, I think is a bit of an oversight, obviously.
Noble one. Orders.
Right, if I leave that, will you be happy? Yes. We want to try and mop up as many of these rebel regions as quickly as possible. So we've got Leofric's bowing, and we've got the plains of Vidgavia. There's another castle down here, and I would really like this one on the edge of the forest.
Tomorrow's journey awaits.
Before Doguldur get it.
Tomorrow's journey awaits.
Oh, Kemik has come of age as well. Ah, Kemik, brilliant. You go to Rawburg then.
We move at first light.
Governors all over will be helpful. Until we put this army in a fort, in forts in the plural, we will simply not make any money.
Tomorrow's journey.
Okay, let's get an end turn. So more money at start. More money at start, and then we're going to divide that as King's Purse increase until... See, this is why I find it a bit bizarre, because for the Ardenaim, what we did, and I say this time I say we because it was me that did it, is we set it up so that when the Ardenaim take one region, their King's Purse, let's say their King's Purse at the start of the game is 5,000, and the reason it's 5,000 is to counter the fact that you're paying the upkeep for your whole army. Although it doesn't work strictly speaking like that. But anyway, you got 5,000 as your King's Purse for argument's sake. When you take your first region, that drops to 4,500, with the assumption that your region is then going to make up the deficit. And then when you take your second region, it drops to 4,000, third 3,500, etc., until it levels out about £1,000, I think. And for argument's sake, that's generally speaking how it works. And that allows the Ardenaim to settle wherever they want without them being immediately financially crippled. And as you can see, Cand, they haven't done that for Cand. They've not given that same effect over, which I find quite disappointing, given that the Ardenaim already have that feature set up for them. And it shows to me that they just said, oh, we wanted Cand to be a horde. There we go, I've made them a horde. That's it. That's what they asked for. And it doesn't seem to have been tested or reflected on or anything like that have worked out, which really disappoints me. And I will speak plainly on that part. Whilst, as I say... it is their decision now to make. That doesn't strip me of my right to be disappointed that they haven't done something they haven't given something due thought. But anyway, people are different, and we just have to accept that. We're going to have to besiege Burst South this as well, because we don't have any infantry, so it'll be 4 turns before we actually take it. 6,000 gold coins we're losing now. We've got a fort up there which we're going to use. I don't know if there are many other forts around here. I'd like to take Logarth as well, which is another castle. Sorry, I'm just writing things down as well. And one-off lump sum at First Town. Because I do still have access to the beta channels, and I can at least report this back. And I suppose in many ways they may then... This is the testing. Maybe just none of the beta testers have tested it. But the Ardenaim thing we did before people tested it. We put that in because we thought, as we were putting it in, oh, aren't you actually going to have no money by the time you get... it just disappoints me, I'm afraid to say. And I will speak plainly on that. But I'm sure there were many decisions I made that disappointed people. Ooh, Doguldur. Oh, we beat you to it, you little bastards. You are too slow, my friends. Too slow indeed. The hooves of Cand are faster than the forces of Doguldur. Oh, and it's Chieftain Lagaran. Oh, Lagaran of the Neck himself. Tolui. Absolutely no idea how you pronounce that. Tolui. Tolui. I don't know what... Cand's names are taken from Mongolian tribal bases. So most of the names are taken from just a list of like historic Mongolian names. And I mean, obviously, English is quite possibly the furthest removed from Mongolian it's possible to be. Maybe English and Mandarin are more removed. That's for linguists to debate. But it is fair to say that very few people watching this will have any idea how to pronounce Mongolian names. Oh, yes, I would you like my map information for only even just a small sum would be a dream if I could.
I must say, well, that seemed fruitful. Farewell.
Trade rights is good though. We are going to just bide our time because once we do attack Dorwinion or Dale, the other one will attack us. I expect. And of course we have the dwarves at the end of the day. Now dwarves are quite difficult to deal with as cavalry, except if you have cavalry archers. Then we're going to skirmish those short-legged buggers all over the map until they drop dead of exhaustion. A change has occurred in Dorwinion. The Avari have returned after the sacking of Mornethel over 2,000 years ago, and will assist the Winelands economically, thus freeing up the Northmen to march to war. This may bring about a new golden age for Dorwinion, with rank after rank of stout Northmen to defend them. I haven't seen Darwinian go Northman, actually, in a very long time for the AI either. So this is all shaped. Let's just save it to make sure that we get that locked in, because this is all shaping up lovely. We're going to be up against Northman Dorwinian, which is so rarely seen. We're going to be up against Dale and Erebor, who again are very rarely seen. Hopefully we'll avoid Dol Guldur, although they're going to sit there on the hope that I can't take it, because that's what the AI does, and that's what we do to the AI as well. They're going to hope that I can't take Burr Southis, and they'll swoop in when I fail. But alas, I'm not going to fail, and it's likely to be the third successive victory with less than 5 losses. The garrison is being beaten and bruised from afar. Now, we could, of course, have blitzed into Dorwinion. We have a sizable cavalry force, but the problem that we are met with immediately, we have no infantry and we have no money. So we can't train mercenaries to act as infantry, so we can't build siege. So somewhere like Saint-Anouilh, which is the western region of Dorwinion, is a giant castle somewhere around here, and it would take us, I imagine, around 10 or 11 turns to besiege it, and they will whittle our forces down while we do that. So if you're wondering why I didn't just immediately attack someone, it is because we only have cavalry, and we would lose if we didn't set up a base first. So that's why... Oh, Dol Guldur, will you do me a favour? Mordor, better side with me. I'm gonna be taking a very strongly worded letter to Sauron in the morning, and it's going to express in no uncertain terms that you have betrayed me and thereby betrayed him. And if I find that Sauron sides with you and sweeps me under the rug, I will be very disappointed. But here we go. Dol Guldur have decided that despite the fact we haven't attacked them, we're not attacking their region, we are allied to their ally, they have decided we are to die. So instead of a fight against rebels in Burr Southis, we're going to get an absolute drumming. Oh no, that's grammatically incorrect. We are not going to get an absolute drumming. Dol Guldur is. They have got no hope of defeating this army because they've got not a single unit that is good against cavalry. So this is going to be a little... look how cool that sun icon looks there. That was one of my favourite icons from Matt's collection. Those are the icons that Matt's made for the factions before, and then they were changed to the new sort of more papery kind of designs a long time ago now. All of this was well over a year ago. But Matt's ones did live on in this central circle, which flashes up your units. Although it's slightly off-center, as you can see, but that's because it's a real bugger to get those to be in the middle, and I speak from experience because I'm the person that made that not be in the middle. I probably got to a point after hours of setting them all up, and I probably thought, you know what, that'll do. Right, start the battle. Anything that's actually a threat. Obviously, Lagarin himself. Castellans of Dol Guldur are very powerful. But otherwise, it was a lot of Mirkwood goblins, wasn't it? Goblins with bows, granted, but goblins nevertheless. Weak and pathetic things they are. Right, so our cavalry archer plan thus far has worked quite nicely. We let them skirmish to their heart's content. Oh, we've got Variag Lancers as well, by the way. We haven't seen them in action yet, but these things are a good, heavy-hitting, medium-tier cavalry, and they will punch into lines very nicely. If you like cavalry and you don't want to be good, that is in essence why Khand exists in Divide and Conquer. It gives you a cavalry nation, a really dedicated cavalry nation, as dedicated as Rohan, that doesn't fight for the forces of good. So it gives you that option if you want it. I think Khand might actually also have the best argument for a doom stack of just an entire army of cavalry archers. Could you imagine the destruction you could bring on your enemies? It's like Parthia all over again. Oh, we just lost someone. Oh, it's because they're shooting back at us. Right, the melee cavalry is moving into range. You hit those. These are Wind Riders of Khand. They are the fastest unit in the entire game. Nothing is faster than Wind Riders of Khand. And it doesn't help their impact as much. They're still really good cavalry. But it does mean that they can chase down any routing unit. Nothing escapes Wind Riders of Khand. Look how fast they are. Look at this guy. Jesus, he's on crack. Probably his own personal concoction of crack and speed mixed into one. I assume speed makes someone faster, because why else would you call it speed? Not having partaken of it myself, I'm afraid I can't explain the minor and finer points of taking drugs, as I haven't taken any. Right, keep pulling yourselves back there. Wind Rider's coming in again. Going for the Dogaldor host. Light cavalry. That is fundamentally their only downside, is that whilst they are nippy little buggers, they aren't anywhere near as good as, say, something like the Variag Lancers. The Lancers will hit very, very hard. The Wind Riders, not so much. And you do have to be careful. If we did just compare their stats, though, so Wind Riders have an attack of 14 and a charge of 8, with a total defense of 16. Variag Lancers have an attack of 8, but a charge of 13, so 5 more on the charge. But they pay for that with 6 less on the attack, and a better defense of 18. So that gives them a... They're heavier and they hit harder. But the Wind Riders, then, if they stay in battle, the Wind Riders do better. But, of course, you should never keep cavalry in battle. A rookie mistake. Let's start charging some of these in, actually. I'd quite like all of our cavalry to target the Castellans. Oh, they're coming for the Wind Riders. Get away, get away, get away, get away, get away. Oh, no, you do want to keep in that mode. How do we get on in our charging up here?
4 fights with horns made of clay. We are winning the battle.
We're not going to get the Variag Lancers charging properly because those Wind Riders have beaten them to it, of course, because they're faster. Already covered that in detail.
Only half the enemy force remains. We must pray they lose their will to fight.
Right, now's the time to turn everyone onto those Castellans. Let's turn our Arrow Storm northward, please. Northward? I don't even know if that is northward. Turn the Arrow Storm this way. Come, 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 come. It is very refreshing to play as Khand, I have to say, because it does... They require a certain command that I don't use really in any other Divide and Conquer playthroughs that I've done, either on the channel here or in the past. Khand are so cavalry archer and just general cavalry focused. It is a very different experience to what I'm used to. And it certainly makes for interesting command decisions. Those Castellans barely taking any losses. Oh, who got caught over here? We have lost 5% of our army and we've killed 3/4 of theirs so far. Oh no, they're out. They're out. Alright, I wonder if we just try and swarm them. Is that going to work? Those of you that still have arrows, let's just kill off a few more before we have to. You guys over here, come and hit these. If we could all just kill off that big blob of Mirkwood Hunters, they're not going to kill you in melee, so don't worry about them. Have you guys won over there? Yeah. Now, cavalry archers aren't very good at charging. It's not really what you want to use them for. But I am very tempted to just charge this entire horde. Square in. Oh, that was fantastic. Alright, and then pull out, pull out, pull out, pull out, pull out, pull out. 22 of them got away. Right, where are my Variag Lancers? Come, Lancers, I have a job for you. Oh, he's trying to run away, isn't he? Yes, of course. They've realised that it's over and he's trying to get out. That's why he's just beelining. That happens an awful lot more in this new battle AI that was added a little while ago by Finn. This is... Normally, they don't try and retreat until... It's just usually really rare. Nations do retreat. It was something that they did, but it was very, very rare. But now they seem to actually do it more frequently.
The general lies dead.
Ah, Lageran's dead.
Men can sense their doom upon them.
How many more?
Our enemy flees.
Yes!
Victories
83!
like
2,000!
Come, Let us drink of the most rare and glorious fruit.
And very close between Orash at 226 and Variag Horse Archers at 227. 1 kill separated. Absolutely fantastic work, everyone. Dogaldor is going to be limping back to their forests, but we all know, watching this now, all of you out there watching along with me, knowing Medieval 2 as you all do, we know that Mordor sided with Dogaldor, don't we? Let's not have any misconceptions about it. Let's not be under any illusions. We only have 3 regions. Dogaldor has about 7, and we're the human player. So naturally, Mordor will side with Dogaldor. Damn shame, though.
Your faith and courage have triumphed.
Just occupy 62 gold coins isn't going to do anything. Why have we suddenly got 42,000 in debt? Where's that come from? We were at like 20,000 only a second ago. No way! That never happens! Mordor have sided with us! I can't believe that. I am genuinely astounded that that has actually happened. But we might as well just blitz in. We've got the ultimate army here at the moment. Leave some of them behind. Let's just go and hit the buggers.
We move at first light.
They want a war? We'll bloody well give them a war. Happily, let's just wait and watch. Let's rename all of these things as well. Let's call this one Orashla. La doesn't mean anything, but it just sounds good, I think. What can we call Rawberg? Oh, we've got another person, haven't we, actually? Is anyone a part of the family tree, though? Oh, yeah, Chemic came of age, and Tolui. Oh, yeah. Calling it Chemicla is a bit... Chemicla. Like, Chemic hasn't done anything. No, let's call it... let's totally defy convention and call it Nova. No. Let's call it something completely bizarre. Zantisi. There we go, that'll do. I like to just make up completely random names, particularly when I play like sci-fi games or things like that. If I ever play Endless Legend or Stellaris or Sins of a Solar Empire, I tend to think up some sort of generic naming convention and apply it to everything. So, for example, the reason I've just called this Zantisi is because in my latest Sins of a Solar Empire game, I went with the theory of calling every planet Zan something because, for whatever reason, that defined my people. So I've gone for the same thing here. But renaming is you need to make use of renaming in this game because it's there. And it isn't there for so many other games. You get to express yourself in a way that otherwise you wouldn't get to do. Now, I am going to draw this to a close there, though. With the speaking bit at the beginning and then the 2 sections of speaking at the beginning. That's about where I'd want the video to be. Next time, though, will be sort of 45 straight minutes or maybe even an hour of just straight-up gameplay. And you'll get canned for the entirety of this week and possibly next as well. Not sure how I'm going to do it. I decided a long time ago that it was better to do 1 week of one set of videos, 1 week of another, rather than one canned video, then 2 days later one reunited video, and then 2 days later one canned video, and then 2 days later one reunited video. It generally was always better to do a batch of them at the time. And I usually like to give a new faction a couple of weeks, so I might do. I'm undecided. But for now, let's take a look at the world, actually, just so that you can have a look and see where we are. I mean, we're only 23 turns in, but... so, we've obviously started up here. We've got Zantisi, Akishla, and Orashla now set up. Dogaldor border us on the north, so it's going to just be a slogfest with Dogaldor, but we'll try and just crush some of their regions as quickly as possible. Why not? Dorwinion hasn't expanded in light of what we've done, but I'm sure they'll hit Lest. Dale to our north, Erebor to the north of them. There isn't really anything surprising at the moment. Mordor and Dogaldor not being allied anymore might be interesting. They might actually go to war with each other, which would be a very interesting turn of events. And of course, Harad will mop up all of our ex-regions when they finally get to them. Although Mordor's straight in there with Oibamari, and they'll probably get canned as well, actually. So we'll see about that. Isengard's new region of Fangorn Camp, obviously, is a new feature of version 5, which we've seen in the Reunited Kingdom campaign as well. But Isengard and Rohan there. And then there's Enid Wythe over in their usual spot. Dunland. Nothing to tell at the moment because we really are too soon to do a toggle fog of war. But it's nice to see them every now and then. Oh no, Dunedain army knocking around in Goberdrine. That's a bit ballsy, isn't it? Blimey. Dunland already at Keloniac and Tharbad. Pushy little buggers. But my chief enemies are going to be Dorwinion Dale and Erebor, but I did worry that Dol Guldur might force my hand, and if we can crush them in a series of just extreme battles and drop them down to a few backwater provinces, then they'll get mopped up by the Anduin, and we won't have to actually defeat them. My goal, I think, is we'll take Dor Lingvar and then we'll push for Dol Guldur and then try and gather as many of their forces in one place and do an almighty crushing blow. And then potentially, because I definitely won't go to war with Mordor in this campaign, give Dol Guldur possibly to Mordor so that it won't rebel, and then that forces Mordor and Dol Guldur to maybe go to war as well. I don't want to fight Dol Guldur very much at all. But until we start making money, we don't really want to hit Dale or Dorwinion or Erebor. But I don't know. We want the campaign to be difficult. And with a cavalry heavy army, it's unlikely to be difficult, so we need to pick and choose. But anyway, for now, that concludes. Thank you very much for watching, if indeed you have. I do hope that you've enjoyed this. The channel also at the moment is playing through Battle for Middle-earth, so feel free to have a watch of those if you would like to. Battle of Middle-earth 2, the Evil campaign, is currently being played through. And of course, stay tuned as we come up to February. I will be releasing Warhammer 3 content on the channel. If that's not your bag, fair enough. Get your channel where you get your channels. Get your content where you get your content, rather. And all the best to you. I do hope you enjoy it. But if you're interested, I will bring Warhammer 3 stuff to the channel. So do check that out if you are indeed interested. But until next time, Nevair Neden Pedemad Melunin, and farewell.